Astronauts to the moon.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to reality.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jeranism back with another video for you today. Wanted to talk quickly about two things. First is circumnavigation, and second will be kind of a moment of zen. Two images and a moment of reflection. But first, let's get to circumnavigation. As we've been taught, the current model of the Earth is that of a sphere, or something close to it, with a circumference of 24,901 miles. And we all know, and some have done it themselves personally, that you can circumnavigate the globe going east or west. That works on a globe, and it also works on a flat Earth. What is interesting on the flat model, however, is that the same is true, but the southern hemisphere is much larger. Not the same as its northern counterpart. So, if the Earth was flat, there would be signs to show us that the flat model better represented reality. Like in the southern summer. In a heliocentric world, the sun is 3 million miles closer during the southern summer than it is during the northern summer. So, most, if not all, of the Earth's highest temperatures would be in the south. However, that's not the case. In fact, 14 of 15 of the highest temperatures are in the north. Well, if you look carefully, that actually works on a flat model much better. The flat model would also call for a much colder and harsh environment in the south. The globe calls for 70 degrees south and 70 degrees north to be really identical, yet they are completely and vastly different. And the flat model would also show a larger than currently understood southern sea. You can see here that the southern hemisphere is much larger. Now, does this match our observations, or does the globe? Go to any flight tracker and watch southern flights, and as soon as they are 200 miles offshore, poof, they're gone. You won't see them again until they're within 200 miles from another landmass. So with a larger than expected southern hemisphere, we should expect to see some evidence that the distance traveled below the equator is a lot larger than the globe predicts. So let's have a look. So taking a look at this image and the green line, you should be able to see that the circumnavigation east-west should be less than 25,000 miles. Granted, there could be some added miles here or there, so let's say 35,000 at the most. So let's begin with Magellan. And of course he died and his logs are lost, and of course even the backup logs are no longer in existence. The closest we have is Antonio Pigafetta's account and a logbook by Francisco Albo. Now, in his very own log, Pigafetta points out that the circumference of Earth is 6,300 leagues. Then he says that a league is 4 miles. So 6,300 times 4 is 25,200. That's within a few hundred of the current measurement of 24,901. Now, I'm sure you've heard people say that Eratosthenes discovered the circumference of the Earth back in 250 BC. He was a very smart man, they say. Take yourself back 2,000 years, 2,500 years, and look at these pictures and tell me how smart of a man he would have had to be to come to the conclusion that the sun rays are parallel. I don't think there's any possible way that anybody would come to that conclusion in 250 BC. Now, it is difficult to know what has been rewritten and what hasn't in some of these logs, but let's read this entry from the Pigafetta journal. It says, "The Earth is round," he says, "and remains suspended and immovable in the midst of all celestial bodies. The first index fixed the two poles, the Arctic and the Antarctic, which are supposed to correspond with the poles of the Earth. It is supposed that all the circumference of the Earth is divided into 360 degrees, and each degree is 17 leagues and a half. Consequently, the entire circumference of the Earth is 6,300 leagues." So somehow in 1525 they knew where Antarctica and the Arctic were, the North and the South Pole. 1525?
This is crazy!
Yeah, I'd say that. Let's move on. So, we've got here, how many miles did Ferdinand Magellan travel? And it says he traveled 14,460 leagues, which they equate here to 43,400 miles. So we look a little bit further and see another article here that also says the same thing, that they had run more than 14,460 leagues. The next document here as well says the same number yet again, 14,460 Spanish leagues. It lists that as 37,560 miles. So far we've been told 37,560, we've been told 43,400, but if we just look at Pigafetta's own writing, where he says that land leagues are of 3 miles and sea leagues are of 4 miles. So that gives us 1460 times 4 is 57,840 miles. Yet we've seen other articles try and tell us 37, 47. It's actually 57,000 miles. Now when you look at the logbooks of Captain Cook, his logbook for his second journey was also 60,000 plus miles. You could look at the British Challenger expedition in the 1800s. That was also over 60,000 miles. So we should start being able to recognize a pattern here, that obviously when we circumnavigate south of the equator, we are logging way too many miles. Remember that they're at the bottom of the globe. So if the equator is 25,000 miles, how are Captain Cook, Magellan, and others doing 50 to 65,000 miles, which is more than double? And of course, the key here is the circumnavigation. But not east-west. Let's look at north-south. So on a globe, we know how easy it would be to simply do a north-south circumnavigation going over both poles. It should be as easy as going east-west. So we either will have a ton of north-south circumnavigations, or we will have a few weird stories and trips and maybe some failed attempts, because on a flat earth map, north-south circumnavigation is impossible. So again, if we live on a globe, we should be seeing a lot of north-south navigations, circumnavigations, and if we live on a flat earth, we would see a lot of things like this picture shows. Imagine you start at that white dot there somewhere on the east coast of the United States and travel down to the tip of South America. You would then travel from there out to wherever the 90-degree marker was, and you'd have to turn around and come back. You see that line coming right back to the Mexico area, and then up to the North Pole, and then ending back where you started. Alright, so should we expect to see no claims for north-south navigation? Well, remember, it is a deception. So we're going to have to dig a bit deeper. They don't just hand you the truth. They are happy to teach you lies in public schools and show you propaganda and TV and newspapers. But for truth, we're going to have to actually step out of our comfort zone. So let's look at some recent claims. First, we have the Guinness record holder and the Guinness Greatest Living Explorer, Sir Ranulph Fiennes. He goes by the name of Ran. One of the things he did was a 3-year trip to circumnavigate the Earth north-south. And are we dealing with some just regular guy? Or are we dealing with Sir Ranulph Twistleton Wegzara Fiennes, the 3rd Baronet, OBE? He was in the British Army for 8 years. He inherited his father's baronetcy, whatever the hell that means. Some ridiculous nonsense, I'm sure. He's also cousins to Queen Elizabeth. So you don't have to look too far to see what kind of guy we are dealing with here. And a recent Telegraph article tells us that Sir Ranulph was in court recently because he was accused by Natalie Harrison of faking injuries to make his expedition seem more risky and exciting. And Natalie, she actually got hurt the second time she fell into a crevice on purpose. And you see him here with a ladder. I don't know who's carrying that for him while he's on these little journeys. But, oh, by the way, since Harrison agreed to go along with the 2 fake stunts, she got 0. In fact, she was ordered to pay Sir Ranulph Fakes-A-Lot $50,000 to pay for his lawyer fees, because the judge actually said that it was her choice to go ahead and agree with his idea of faking accidents. He is, of course, a Freemason, a member of the Belvedere Lodge number 503. Of course, it runs in the family. But now let's take a look at this 1979 to 1982 Trans-Globe Expedition, the North-South Pole Circumnavigation. Yeah, right.
No one has ever done that! No one has ever done that in the history of Dota!
So let's take a look if there's any discrepancies that might lead us to believe that maybe this is some, I don't know, horseshit. It looks like 52,000 miles, it says here, in total was covered during this Trans-Globe Expedition. Again, north-south navigation, 25,000 mile circumference, yet 52,000 mile trip. And we can note that it says it was such a huge challenge no one has ever repeated the route. So now let's look at the Guinness Book of Fakery. According to this, we've got 35,000 miles. Okay, well, that's a little different. And this is the Guinness Book of World Records page. This is the Transglobe ship that actually he used to travel up and down the globe, I guess. They also had an interesting apparatus here. This is the Transglobe Expedition, the plane. So even though they're supposed to be doing surface navigation, who knows what they actually did. Let's see here. This is the actual homepage for Sir the expedition. Oh, now it's a 100,000 mile route.
You lie to me. You make an excuse.
So they've now jumped from 35 to 52 to 100,000 miles, all talking about the exact same trip. I mean, the question is, how can you be off by 70,000 miles? That's like 3 times around the globe. Can we not figure out how many miles we went on a trip? It's not that hard. Oh boy. Here we have another page that also claims that it was 100,000 miles, which is just ridiculous. Why would it ever take somebody 4 times the distance of the circumference of the Earth to go the circumference of the Earth? I mean, did he forget his car keys and have to go back home? He was at the North Pole, he had to go all the way to the South Pole, then come all the way back and then do that twice? Doesn't make any sense. I can't take it. So now we're looking at a little PDF flyer they had from around that time that says Around the World the Long Hard Way, which if it's 25,000 miles and you're going 100,000 miles, then you definitely went the long hard way. And just reading in here, you'll see that there's all kinds of things going on. People are dropping off snowmobiles, picking up food, taking planes over here, boats over here. There's people all over the place. Whole thing is a disaster. Oh, did I mention it's also a lie? One interesting thing I did find in this article that it says that there are only 5 pages in Rand's book about the time that he was at the South Pole, and there are no photos. So whenever you're doing a cross Antarctica expedition where you have to go through the South Pole, it's definitely good to take no pictures at the South Pole. That's the way to verify exactly what you say you did. Speaking of Antarctica, there was another interesting thing I found, that when you apply to go down there for whatever reason, take pictures, to go work as a scientist or whatever, you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. If you guys know what that's like, it's like somebody's giving you secrets about a certain product or a new TV show, and you're not allowed to say anything. So what's going on down in Antarctica that you might see while you're down there that you're not allowed to say anything, besides Sir Richard Fakes-a-Lot faking another expedition? Now let's talk about some other people who have also gone north-south circumnavigation and see if they match the flat model or the globe model. This is the owner of the current record for a single plane being flown north-south pole circumnavigation. You can look up ZQ Pilot. Let's take a look at his path. You'll see here the white path was the intended path. The red path is his actual path. So he went down to the tip of South America, bounced out to the 90-degree marker, and then turned around and went right back where he came from, then jumped from South America all the way to Australia, Australia to Hawaii, to California, to Alaska, to the North Pole, back home to North Carolina, and he has the record for circumnavigation. Did he circumnavigate? I don't think so, Tim. Alright, now we're looking at a helicopter named Polar First as they attempted their record-setting helicopter flight pole-to-pole circumnavigation on December 5th, 2006, but they got down to the South Pole and crashed their helicopter. So in 2007 they attempted it again, and this time they did it according to the rules and regulations, not according to me, because what they did is went down to the South Pole, touched the 90-degree marker, and it says here they retraced their steps north with a stop at their 2003 crash site. They then crossed to the Drake and then to Ushuaia. Then they continued through South America. Then they went up the west coast of the U.S. with stops in Alaska and Canada, reaching the North Pole on 20th of April via Eureka, and from there they headed south, retracing the northern part of the route, and then hitting the east coast, Montreal, then New York. So if you can't see what's going on here, we have basically no circumnavigations north-south. The ones that we do have are like liners, or I don't know if you remember in gym having to do suicides or whatever they were called. That's basically what they're doing. They're running to the pole, touching it, and coming right back. That is not circumnavigation. It makes no sense on a globe Do we only fly planes to London and then they have to come right back? They're not allowed to go past that? Of course not, right? Hopefully you're starting to see the writing on the ball, which says, "I'm fake. I'm a joke." Speaking of jokes, now we get to watch a little portion of the film that was taken of Sir Ranulph and his partner, Charlie Burton, as they become the first ever to do the north-south circumnavigation via the surface. Let's watch what I'm sure will be a captivating film.
The two-man team was unsafe.
So we said goodbye to our friends on board, and we wouldn't see them again for over a year. The trip ahead we knew would be very difficult indeed. We set out in two 12-foot open rubber boats, but quite quickly, going up the Yukon for 1,000 miles, we realized that they would not be up to the icy hazards and the storms of the Northwest Passage, which lay ahead.
Now, I'm not claiming to be smart here or anything, but who's filming this? Who is filming this scene?
What do you think it is, Jack? I think it's just plugs. I can't really tell.
Breakdowns had become commonplace.
So we had to have some other form of craft. So we got on by Morse code to Ginny to try and get us a Boston whaler, which would be fiberglass and tough enough for the ice and the storms ahead.
So just like that, you just basically snap your fingers and you get a replacement boat. That's really cool. So now they're driving the replacement boat that came out of thin air.
We had storms, we had whiteouts.
Oh, here they are struggling through the ice pack. It's going to be tough to get through there. How is the person filming it? Who is this dog? Why is the dog there? Where was the dog a second ago? And how did the person get through? Who's taping this? Who is this person? Did they already get... Who is taping them from the shore already? I thought they're just getting there. This is a movie. This is not real.
We then had to trek over the unmapped mountains of Ellesmere Island. And that is when I really realized the true courage of Charlie.
I mean, come on, for real. Why is this cameraman doing just fine? This is so fake. These guys are acting like they're dying, but the cameraman, he's just fine. It's easy to carry camera through the mountains.
I cracked my head open. I realized that there was a possibility of doing ourselves a considerable bit of damage. I've been dreading this part for about 6 years now. Ever since I knew we had to walk up Ellesmere Land. My feet, in fact my legs, are not the strongest. For the simple reason that I've damaged them too often over 38 years. I was scared.
I mean, look how far ahead the cameraman is. These guys are taking too long. This guy's getting a running head start or something. Now, pay attention here when he looks at the tent. You got the cameraman, you've got one of the explorers, you got the other one near the tent. Then watch the left side of the tent on the bottom. Did you see that? That guy's already got company.
They have come 150 miles so far. Between them and the pole, 350 more. But with detours, perhaps 500.
Does anybody know where they got these snowmobiles from? Is that what they were carrying on their backs? Do they have snowmobile rental shops up near the North Pole? I'm confused. And these guys are just mowing through. Cameraman's already in front of them. So who brought him in front of them and then went back? Here comes this guy. Woo! Okay. Now it's over. Can't get any faker than that. I mean, look at this nonsense again. Oh yeah, that was on accident. Go ahead and jump in the river there. This just in, one of the actors pretending to do a polar expedition have faken fallen into a river, causing hours of backup on their North Pole trip.
Suddenly puts Transglobe in the headlines.
They're now 340 miles from the North Pole.
By the time we eventually got near to the North Pole, we were definitely getting a bit weird.
They're fatigued and peculiarly lightheaded.
Now, maybe it's just me, but I would ask the cameraman, "Excuse me, sir, how are your feet not being frozen like mine? How are you able to get through this just fine, but I'm acting like I'm dying over here?" I'm pretty sure whatever shoes you're wearing are what I should be wearing, so that I have feeling in my feet like you clearly do. You don't seem to be bothered by any of this. Oh, sweet. I'm so happy they had the speedy oil change and tune-up up here, so I was able to get my wrecked snowmobile fixed. And, oh, I just go over 4-foot gaps, too, like they're nothing. With the cameraman standing right there, filming it perfectly. It's crazy how crazy these north-south circumnavigations can get. You just never know what surprises around the corner. Sometimes you get a new boat, sometimes you get snowmobiles, sometimes you have a regular phone to use. Sometimes the cameraman pans like it's a cinematic scene. It's all very impressive.
But we're here. Only a jumble of fractured ice marks the top of the world. And within a few days, the Union Jack will have drifted miles away with the ever-moving flow. While the moment may be transitory, its meaning is not. Rand Fines and Charlie Burton have become the first men ever to reach both poles the hard way.
So we got 2 guys in the record books. What about the cameraman? He doesn't count? Chump change? Alright, they finally made it. They left the snowmobiles, I don't know, back there somewhere. They don't need them anymore. They made it. They've done it. First ones ever. Unbelievable.
I don't think nature is comprised solely.
No, I meant that. Like, this bullshit is unbelievable.
She could and did.
Oh, and look who's there with him. Prince Charles. Ain't that cute. Way to go, guys. You're awesome. And if you believe that, then I've got an island off the coast of Colorado I need to sell you. So, hit me up. Now, let's just pretend that sometimes people circumnavigate north-south, like 5 people a year. Even though we just saw 2 guys fake it, and they're the only ones to ever do it, let's pretend that there's 5 a year. And there's about 8 million people that fly a day, or 3.1 billion a year. So if only 5 circumnavigated north-south per year, that would be 0.00000000016%. Now, does that sound like a number that leans towards the side of definitely possible and equally possible in comparison to east-west circumnavigation? Or does it look like a number that screams impossible? This does not happen. From that, you should be able to formulate kind of an idea whether we're living on a big giant ball or not. Okay, coming up we have our little moment of Zen. First, this image from the International Space Station. I mean, words can't even describe. Look at this. Unbelievable. I mean, honestly, I wish I was kidding. Space station. Alright, so now what we're going to wait for is 2 pictures. This one first, then we're going to look at another one, and then we're going to put them together, and then we're going to think it out, talk it out, and then I'll be done. So this is the first one, and here is the second. Hopefully you can see where this is going. Mind you, both these are NASA images, and now we will put them side by side. Alright. Deep breath, let it out. Look at these 2 images of where you supposedly live, and let's talk about it. Globe believers want to tell flat earthers that their map is wrong because Australia is distorted. Take a look here, folks. Whatever your excuse might be for what we see in front of us, it should come with the realization that these images are fake. Well, one of them is fake for sure, right? So if only one is fake, does that mean that they fake it sometimes? Do they fake the ISS sometimes? So come on, globe believers, and those that hate my guts. You're either a thinking, questioning, rational-minded human being who recognizes deceit when it's right in front of you, owns it when you've been had, and does what it takes to help correct the lie and to expose the liars. Or You're a parrot for a slave system. A slave system that has stolen your life, your purpose, your importance, and your mind. And it's just sad because you're going to fight for them. You must love the system. You must love your slavery. Well, I don't. So if you can't speak out against them, well, you better warn them that we're coming. And they've got a lot to prove. They taught us a lot and taught us the scientific method. And now that we're trying to test these so-called facts, we aren't reproducing the same results. So if we're all just idiots, if science is right, then show us. Test it. Show us the proof. What part of the scientific method says that people should stop others from doing their own independent tests and experiments? All that we're asking is for you to show us. Show us the measurable curvature. Show us something. So the choice is yours. Research and test, or type "you're a moron" again into the comments and feel good about yourself. I'll tell you one thing, it won't change the fact that we've all been lied to. It will only prolong the inevitable. And that's nobody's going to space. There's no rover on Mars. Stars are stars and the sun is the sun. Or you can continue to preach your gospel and tell us all how true and good it is. A reading from the second letter of Neil deGrasse to the theoretical physicists. I mean, look at these two pictures. All of you who want to tell me I'm an idiot for not trusting NASA, look at the screen. Are you really going to make up an excuse for them yet again? Really? To us, we can't seem to find how all of these globe facts were put through any kind of scientific method. So if you do, if we've missed it, can you do the tests? Can you show us how? Because science is starting to look pretty bad right now. And where are these inquisitive scientists I'm told about? The ones that are just dying for new discoveries. We're making new discoveries. We're proving that boats don't go over the horizon. Something that people haven't known for 500 years. But we can't find any of these scientists that supposedly are all about debunking the current beliefs. Do they exist? Or is it just that all that was merely words? We'll find out soon. Be kind to each other. Don't lie to each other. Don't fake pictures of the earth. And please remember, I don't know the truth. I don't know anything. This is just my opinion, pointing things out the way I see them. It means nothing. You need to do your own research and look things up yourself. Maybe you see two equally sized North Americas there. What do I know? But open up your mind, because there's truth inside. Till next time, this has been Jeranism.